It's time for another meta-analysis. What's up guys, it's Farfa. Wakanda forever. This is not a CMO channel, by the way, not a CMO channel. Or a banlist channel. This is now a pie chart channel. Pie chart channel. I hope you enjoyed the jokes because that's all you're getting for this video. I'm really sick. I must have contracted ligma or something because with a room of like 2,500 people, I'm sick. So sorry if I sound funny. I'm going to be breaking down the meta that just occurred with 3 whole YCSs across different regions, different theories, different playstyles, different takes on the game. What an exciting time. This is generally really exciting, and I am very much looking forward to the coming format and seeing how things develop, how card choices change, and what exactly Soul Fusion has in store for us at the next YCS, which I believe should be London anyway for us in Europe. I don't know how it is over in Texas, or Greater Texas, United Texas. Starting off with a general overview of the kind of landscape itself, it's very much kind of unsurprising that Sky Striker took the most spots here, and the deck was projected to be obviously the most dominant just because of the fact that all the deck really lost was drones, and drones is of course a very super impactful, amazing starter card. However, it is not completely incremental to the strategy of Sky Striker. You still have lots of other starter cards like your Terraformings and your Ace Base and the bonus card boy. Bonus cards. These cards are all really good at getting your plays going, and the hit to drones, realistically, all that did was stop the strategy from being abused in non-pure Sky Striker decks, whereas the pure Sky Striker deck itself has pretty much, for the most part, been untouched, and that's why I think, unsurprisingly, it took most of the top cut spots. I think 50% is absolutely insane. To tell you the truth, I feel like that maybe the deck could have, suffered maybe a hit or two extra on top of the drones just to bring it a little bit down in line, because wow, that is really that's a lot of top cut spots for the first event. But then again, the first event is always going to be sort of an event where people maybe try something a little bit more safer, something that isn't super out there and outlandish, unless of course your name's Jesse Cotton and you play Warrior Hero Dark deck. Sky Striker, very safe bet for this meta. Star Striker, on the other hand, not doing anywhere near as well as it should have. And I don't think that's surprising to anyone because, like I said, with the drones hit, that drones hit affected non-Sky Striker decks way more than it did Sky Striker itself. So that engine and that sort of splashable little mini thing that you could put into different decks like Invoked, for example, which I projected to be a decent deck for this event, not doing so well. Having a pretty good showing in the Mexican YCS, but overall what you'll see is that deck, or decks that just abuse engage, not engage rather, drones, those are the ones that kind of fell off a little bit with these with this new format in these events. Talking a little bit more about Sky Striker, it's unsurprising that in Utrecht, in the European region, Sky Striker was the most dominant deck and by and large had the most tops of any other region. So it was like 35 in Utrecht and then like 27 in America. And I think that's wholly down to Summon Sorceress, because with the next deck that I'll be mentioning, Gouki, they obviously are a lot stronger in America. But over here in Europe, at least, Sky Striker was definitely a very strong choice. And without a doubt has to be the best deck of the format so far, unless of course things do change up drastically. But that's because of the fact that we don't have Summon Sorceress over here. And something else that I picked up on and I thought was really interesting, the further and further up the top cut deck lists you go, the higher and higher the number of Eagle Boosters you'll be seeing in these deck lists. Eagle Booster is a card that if you have 3 spells in your graveyard basically makes your monster a towers for the turn. The reason that this is really powerful is because in the mirror match, generally one of the win conditions is pretty much just cut your opponent off from Ray. Stop your opponent from accessing Ray by any shape or form, and it doesn't matter how many engages and plus cards they have in their hand. If you can prevent that link summon, then you are going to be in the commanding spot. So one simple thing to do is just Eagle Booster, protecting your own monster from Widow Anchor to stop your opponent from stealing it and then linking into it to therefore maintain your Ray access. That is one of the best win conditions that I noticed in the deck list, going further and further up the top cut spots. And you'll see it, like the further the better and further the deck went, generally the higher counts that you'll see of cards like Eagle Booster going from 2 as a standard, some decks even playing all the way up to 3 Eagle Booster, which is a great card in the Sky Striker mirror match. There was some decks playing Shared Ride in the main deck, absolutely insane in the mirror match. You're basically playing with a max C in the Sky Striker mirror. So there you go, Shared Ride, and Ego Booster, and also as well some interesting an interesting trap card, which I haven't seen that in a while. It's Solemn Strike. Solemn Strike is a card that's very, very good as well in Sky Striker, because your opponent then goes to engage to search the Eagle Booster to protect their monster for that turn so that they can make a push on you, and you just strike the summon, and obviously they can't chain Eagle Booster to that. So Strike saw a little bit of climbing in popularity for this event, at least at the European deck list that I did manage to properly look at. And Solemn Strike, of course, great card and stuff, but just seemed to have kind of fell off at the last format. But it seems to be really definitely back now with Sky Strikers, and a card that's just really, really powerful in the meta for the Sky Striker mirror match. Okay, don't want to be spending the entire video talking about Sky Striker, but I thought it was obviously going to be extremely important, no less because of the fact that it did take 50% of in the entire region's top cut spots. So that's Sky Striker in a nutshell. Moving on to Gouki. Of course, Gouki lost some very, very good cards, Goblin and Invoker on the list, meaning that some of the extenders and some of the sort of starter cards that the deck run just weren't really feasible anymore. Terror Top, anything that helps you go into Invoker, like the Dinosaur Boys, all of that kind of stuff just not really working out anymore for the Gouki deck, and not much has really been able to replace those cards. However, we do know that in America they have Summon Sorceress. Gouki got almost double the amount of tops that it did in Europe or Mexico put together, just because of Summon Sorceress being really, really amazing. Armageddonite being a great starter card in that deck, pretty much just a one card U-Link uninterrupted, a little bit more resilient to hand traps. The combos are a little bit more linear as well, and the European ones are way more convoluted and stuff because you don't have that Summon Sorceress access. So Gouki, very, very powerful combo deck. And while it did have some showing in Europe, not to say that the deck's completely dead. In fact, I think it was pretty much the second most represented deck in Top Cut after Sky Striker, 8 spots altogether in Europe. But obviously, it doesn't hold a candle to 35 of Sky Striker in Europe. Of course, in America, I think it was 16 altogether that they had. So Gouki doing really, really well in America. Well, I wouldn't exactly call it really well because, you know, like 16 versus 27 doesn't really sound that much, but it's not that much of a divide. Anyway, as I was saying before my battery rudely cut me off here, let's move on to the next represented deck, and that's going to be Altergeist. Altergeist is a deck that took pretty much equal spots across every single region. I think it was pretty much 5-5 and then 6 and maybe Mexico, I want to say. So Altergeist is a deck that did pretty well, and I'm just going off of Bowden's list here, which I believe is probably one of the better ones. Didn't actually run any floodgates whatsoever, just played purely like a controlled trap deck. Very similar to kind of how Paleo did back in the day. I suppose this deck is just, you know, kind of like a boneless Paleo now. Maining Shared Ride, of course, like I said, Shared Ride, absolutely amazing cards. Basically Maxi versus Sky Striker. They have to just stop and not play the game anymore. So that's something to take into consideration for the format going forward. Altergeist is a very good deck and something that you can play even without having to play all these floodgates. None whatsoever run in Bowden's deck. And I think it's something that's very, very powerful and able to deal with Sky Striker to a decent amount if you do main the right cards to handle it. Like, for example, the Storm Dusters that we saw there, Shared Ride, of course. So Altergeist doing pretty much what you would expect to do. I don't think it was anything super surprising. Out there on the fringes of the very, very top tier deck, right? Altergeist probably around about equal with Gouki in the non-American regions. Now, YCS Mexico did have something a little bit interesting, and that was the ability to play all of these Mech Knight cards. I don't understand what it is about Mexico. Maybe they just really love Mech Knights or something. But the Mexicans just really just took it out there with the Mech Knight stuff. There was all kinds of variants. There was Brilliant Mech Knight. I don't know what that is still. Like I tried to find the list. I couldn't for the life of me find it. So there's Brilliant Mech Knight, there's Star Striker Mech Knight, Sky Striker Mech Knight, Trickstar Mech Knight, Invoke Mech Knight, all kinds of Mech Knight decks basically topped YCS Mexico. Invoked Mech Knight, I do believe got 1 or 2 in Europe, and I'm not too sure if it got anything in America, I believe. I don't see any Invoked Mech Knight here. But yeah, doing okay in America and, in Europe, and especially Mexico. Moving on to some Rogue here. Burning Abyss, what can we say? I called it as always. It's just, it's not really calling it, you know, it's just tradition. Burning Abyss tops every single event ever. Just doesn't matter what the format is, doesn't matter what the best deck is. It could be full power Necros, it could be Dragon Rulers. Yeah, Burning Abyss probably topped in Dragon Rulers. That's how annoying that deck is somehow. Even though it wasn't released, it probably topped back then. Burning Abyss taking 2 spots in Europe, 1 in Mexico, and 0 in America. So Americans really, really disappointing. Terrible performance, and you guys should be ashamed of yourself. Cyber Dragons. Now, I don't know if this is actually a real thing or not, but it got a top in Europe and it got a top in, I think it was the US. Yep, one in Columbus, not in Mexico. And I believe Blair Hunter as well, pretty well-known player. I think he managed to bubble as well in America with Cyber Dragons. So Cyber Dragons, I don't know, maybe there's a little bit something there. Pretty decent OTK strategy. Going second, Rampage Dragon, really good rev system and all that kind of new cards. Dry and Hertz have given the deck a little bit of consistency. Haven't properly tried the deck myself or tested it, but I'll give it a shot sometime on stream maybe and just see how it plays out. But yeah, Cyber Dragons getting a couple of spots here and there. Same with Paleo, getting one or two in each region, as did Pendulum. Exactly one top in every single region. Unfortunately, the Pendulum one in the UK wasn't mine. The best list that I did see of Pendulums was, of course, a 41 card list, I believe, from Zeki. That's how I believe the Pendulum deck should be played. If you're interested in my personal report and stuff, it's on my channel. You can see how I did with the 60 card list, my thoughts on it. But yeah, Pendulum, unsurprising that it topped. Not very unsurprising that it didn't dominate. Just one top in each region out of 64 across each place. I don't know, I feel like it maybe... I think that deck could probably get a little bit more, but unfortunately not. Anything else here that I found was relevant? There was one Spiral or two. Dangerous Spiral bubbled in Europe. Spiral itself, courtesy of Faisal, managed to top in America. There's a deck list on Facebook as well for that. Finally, last deck to kind of mention is TRICKSTAR. TRICKSTAR, of course, falling a little bit more off the radar because of the drones hit that I mentioned at the start with Sky Striker. What do you really do with that deck now, huh? It's your best card, which was the Sky Striker cards. Now, one, it actually hurts the deck a lot more consistently than you would imagine. I think that's pretty much all the decks here covered. I've looked at everything as best as I can. Sorry I couldn't include as many ha-has and memes as I could normally, but you know, I don't feel well. I don't know if it sounds apparent in my voice or whatever. I'm gonna go get some rest now after I edit this. Thanks everyone for watching, and until next time, my name has been Yu-Gi-Oh! Journalism. Master Peace.